Today, we're continuing our playthrough and translation breakdown of Yūyūki for the Famicom disk system. In videos 1 and 2, we covered the Zenpen disk, the first half of the game, and now we're moving on to the Kohen disk, which will be covered across videos 3 and 4. The game was actually released in 2 parts, about a month apart, so this is the second release. This video is part 3 of the overall series. You can check out the video description for links to chapters throughout the game. To actually start the second half of the game, you need to choose the second scenario from the main menu, then swap the disks in the correct order on the correct side of the Famicom disk system. Honestly, keeping track of which side is which disk you're supposed to insert is trickier than you think, and I didn't get it right the first time. As with the earlier videos, the original game was written mostly in hiragana because of the technical limitations of the time, but throughout this walkthrough I'll provide reconstructed Japanese text using full kana and appropriate kanji where possible, along with romaji, literal word-for-word breakdowns, and the natural English interpretations so you can follow both the story and the language itself. As a quick recap, during the Zenpen disk we met Sanzo the monk, Hekai the pig spirit, and Gojo the kappa, along with Chao, or Neryl as I've been calling her. We crossed the Great Desert, climbed the mountain to the Village of Women, obtained the Hammer of Light, and eventually sailed towards Tenjiku, India, in search of the Buddhist Sutras. But things didn't go smoothly. After encountering Kogaiji, the Ox King's son, our ship was destroyed, the party was scattered, and Sengoku's journey towards redemption was thrown into chaos once again. So now, with the Kohen disk beginning, we continue the journey to the west in a search for Neryl, the Sacred Sutras, a way to defeat the Ox King, and perhaps most importantly, a chance for Sengoku to finally redeem himself for his crimes against heaven. After the destruction of the ship, Sengoku finally comes face to face with the Ox King himself, or so it would seem, and as you might expect, the Ox King is not exactly happy about what happened to his son Kogaiji back in the previous chapter. The confrontation immediately feels hopeless. The Ox King is overwhelmingly powerful, and Sengoku is completely alone, separated from the rest of the party after the wreck. Sengoku is completely outmatched and is in serious danger. He then blacks out, and as consciousness slowly returns, Sengoku begins to notice an intense coldness around him. Disoriented and unable to understand where he is, he calls out into the darkness, trying to figure out what happened and whether anyone else survived. As Sengoku regains his senses and realizes his encounter with the Ox King was just a dream, he finds himself completely alone in a frozen wasteland. All around him are endless sheets of ice and towering snow-covered mountains stretching off into the distance. Freezing wind blows across the landscape as Sengoku struggles to get back on his feet. Lying beside him on the ice is his staff. With numb, frozen hands, he reaches down, picks it back up, holding on to the only familiar thing he has left after the destruction of the ship and the ominous dream of the Ox King. With nowhere else to go, Sengoku begins searching the area for any sign of life, shelter, or his missing companions. But no matter how far he walks, all he finds is more ice, more snow, and endless frozen ground beneath his feet. Then suddenly, a cracking sound catches his attention. Hearing the noise somewhere in the distance, Sengoku immediately heads towards it, hoping that whatever caused it might finally lead him to someone or something in this frozen wilderness.
Yuki no furumachi o.
The old man is singing a classic Japanese folk song from the post-war era about a town where the snow falls. When he meets Sengoku, he seems to actually know who he is. Are you the one they're calling the idiot? Sengoku, of course, doesn't like that. Who are you calling an idiot? Oh, I just heard that from somewhere. I just came to check on you. So clearly he's a representative of heaven who works with the Buddha, who is definitely where Sengoku had been jailed and is now on probation for, as he's on his mission to defeat the Ox King. That was what the Buddha had said was required to keep him free. The old man calls himself Cloudman. He guesses that some kind of clash with the Ox King must have sent him flying into this frozen land. Sengoku immediately asks about his missing companions, desperate to know whether anyone else survived. Cloudman admits that he doesn't know where most of the group ended up, but he does know one thing. Sanzo is apparently somewhere in Hawaii. For Sengoku, that answer only creates more questions. Hawaii sounds impossibly far away from this frozen wilderness, and he immediately starts pressing Cloudman for information about how he can possibly get there. Cloudman, of course, doesn't make things easy. Instead of answering directly, he starts to toy with Sengoku a little, hinting that he might actually know a way out. Sengoku keeps pushing for answers, but Cloudman seems far more interested in testing him first. Finally, he makes an offer. If Sengoku can defeat him in a duel, he'll show him the way to Hawaii and help him continue the search for his friends. But before that happens, Cloudman says he's going to knock some of Sengoku's bad attitude out of him first. Fighting is basically Sengoku's love language, so the moment Cloudman proposes a duel, he accepts without hesitation. The battle begins, immediately with Sengoku rushing forward and throwing a flurry of punches. The sound of his fists cutting through the freezing air echo across the ice as he launches attack after attack, trying to overwhelm Cloudman with pure aggression. But Cloudman barely even seems concerned. He calmly dodges each punch with smooth, effortless movements before suddenly countering with a strike of his own. Sengoku is knocked backward and left briefly winded, already realizing this opponent may be on an entirely different level. Still refusing to back down, Sengoku immediately tries again, this time with a powerful kick. Once again, Cloudman slips around the attack almost casually before returning the favor with a devastating kick straight to Sengoku's face. Sengoku goes flying backwards across the ice and struggles to get back up, even more out of breath than before. At this point, Sengoku decides to stop fighting fair altogether. In one of the strangest attacks imaginable, he suddenly lunges forward and tries to bite Cloudman. For a brief moment, it actually seems to work. Cloudman reacts as though he's been hurt, and Sengoku thinks he may have finally landed a meaningful hit. But then Cloudman starts laughing. It turns out he was only pretending. Sengoku didn't injure him at all. He only chipped his own tooth trying to bite him. Cloudman proudly announces that he possesses an iron butt, completely immune to tooth-based attacks. And before Sengoku can even react, Cloudman retaliates by biting Sengoku directly on his own very non-iron butt. At that point, Sengoku completely loses control. He launches himself into full attack frenzy, throwing punches, kicks, wild swings, recklessly attacks in every direction. The sound of battle filled the frozen wilderness as Sengoku desperately tries to land even a single clean hit, but nothing connects. Cloudman avoids every attack with ease and eventually starts looking genuinely bored. He tells Sengoku outright that he's completely outmatched and has no chance of winning like this. That only makes Sengoku even angrier. Outraged, he finally pulls out the Hammer of Light and prepares to attack with it. But before he can swing, Cloudman immediately snatches the hammer away from him. Sengoku protests that isn't fair, but Cloudman scolds him, explaining that the Hammer of Light is not a weapon. It was never meant to be used for fighting in the first place. By now, Sengoku is running out of strength completely. His breathing becomes heavier, his movements slow, and eventually his legs stop supporting him properly at all. Seeing the fight is effectively over, Cloudman prepares one final attack. Launching himself into the air, he unleashes a massive flying kick that sends Sengoku soaring backwards across the frozen ground. Cloudman lands cleanly, declares himself the winner, and watches as Sengoku struggles in frustration after yet another humiliating defeat. But rather than finish him off, Cloudman simply laughs. He tells Sengoku that he's welcome to challenge him again anytime, then takes off, disappearing into the sky while Sengoku is left behind in the snow. After the battle, Sengoku finds himself completely alone once again as heavy snow continues to fall across the frozen wilderness. The wind grows harsher, the snow deepens around his feet, and every step becomes more difficult than the last. He's bruised, exhausted, and freezing cold after the fight with Cloudman, but even so, he keeps wandering across the tundra searching for anything, shelter, warmth, another person, any sign that he isn't completely stranded out here alone. But the landscape never changes. There's only snow, ice, and endless frozen ground stretching in every direction. Eventually, Sengoku's strength begins to fail him completely. His legs grow heavier and heavier until he finally collapses into the snow, unable to keep moving any longer. Desperate, he reaches out for the Hammer of Light, hoping maybe its power can somehow help him survive. But then he remembers, Cloudman took it away. Lying there in the snow, with nothing left, Sengoku begins drifting through his memories. He remembers the Ox King's overwhelming power in the moment he was sent flying to this frozen wasteland. Then, his thoughts turn to his friends, Sanzo, Hakai, Goju, and Neril. More than anything, he just wants to see them all again, safe and sound. But as memories continue, another feeling starts creeping in. Sleepiness. The cold is beginning to overtake him. Sengoku struggles to stay awake, instinctively realizing that falling asleep out here could mean death. His eyes grow heavier, his thoughts become foggy, the world around him slowly fades into darkness. Then, somewhere far away, he hears voices, and little by little, Sengoku begins to wake up once again. Sengoku finds himself lying inside a small home wrapped in blankets while an elderly woman and an old man quietly watch over him from nearby. Still groggy and barely awake, Sengoku asks the question immediately on his mind. "Did you guys save me?" The old woman gently explains that when they found him, he was extremely close to death out in the snow. Another little while longer, and he likely wouldn't have survived at all. Fortunately, they reached him just in time and carried him back to their home before the cold could finish him off. Seeing Sengoku try to sit up, the old woman tells him not to push himself too hard and encourages him to rest a little longer, so his body can recover properly. But Sengoku, being Sengoku, immediately tries to move anyway. The moment he does, pain shoots through his body and he realizes just how badly beaten and exhausted he still is after everything that happened. The old man quickly tells him to stay still before he reopens his injuries. This time, Sengoku reluctantly listens. Still weak and half asleep, he groggily agrees to rest a little longer. A short while later, the old woman brings him a bowl of hot soup. After wandering through the frozen wilderness and nearly freezing to death, the warm food tastes incredible. Sengoku immediately perks up and happily asks for more. The old woman laughs warmly and gladly gives him another serving. And so, for a time, Sengoku remains with the elderly couple, resting in their home while he slowly recovers his strength after the long ordeal in the frozen wasteland. After spending some time recovering in the old couple's home, Sengoku is finally back on his feet and able to move around again. He joins the old man and woman in their living room while the snow continues falling quietly outside. The old man looks him over and remarks that he's recovered remarkably well considering the condition he was in when they found him out in the frozen wilderness. The old woman agrees, admiring how quickly young people can bounce back even after being pushed to the edge. The old man, however, still thinks Sengoku should spend a little more time resting before trying to head back out into the mountains again, but Sengoku's mind is already elsewhere. Rather than talking about his injuries, he immediately asks the couple whether they know anything about Cloudman. The old woman seems to recognize the name right away. From what she remembers, she believes Cloudman lives somewhere in the north. That at least gives Sengoku a direction to investigate, but there's still another major problem bothering him. He asks the old man about Hawaii. The old man confirms that Sengoku means the island far to the south and says it's extremely far away from here. Hearing that only makes Sengoku more uncertain about what he should do next. He starts asking whether there's any possible way to get there. Are there any boats? No. Any airplanes? No. So at this point, Sengoku is completely at a loss, and the old man even turns to his wife to see if she can think of anything. Unfortunately, she confirms the same thing. There's no transportation available that could carry him all the way to Hawaii from this frozen region. For a moment, the old man thinks quietly to himself before mentioning that something like the flying Nimbus would probably solve the problem easily enough, but then he laughs it off almost immediately. Those only exist in fairy tales. We, however, know that the Monkey King is famous for traveling on his flying cloud, so maybe we'll have one soon if we follow the clues. According to legends, though, the flying Nimbus could supposedly travel 4,000 kilometers without any trouble at all. The idea sticks in Sengoku's mind, but with no clear path forward, there isn't much else he can do for now. So after thanking the old couple once again for saving his life and caring for him during their recovery, Sengoku prepares to leave and continue his journey. The old man and woman wish him good luck as he heads back out into the snowy wilderness in search for the Cloudman, his missing friends, and some way to continue the journey to the west. Outside once again, Sengoku finds himself standing on the endless frozen ice sheet surrounding the old couple's home. With nowhere obvious to go and still thinking about Cloudman and Hawaii, he decides to spend some time exploring the area nearby. Before long, he comes across yet another old man standing alone out on the ice. The man doesn't seem dangerous at all, just frustrated. Sengoku asks him what he's doing all the way out here, and the old man explains he wants to go fishing. Unfortunately, he points down at the frozen surface beneath his feet. The ice is far too thick to break through. Without an opening on the ice, there's no way to fish at all. Naturally, Sengoku immediately decides to help. Rather than overthinking the problem, he simply relies on the one thing he's always had plenty of: raw strength. Drawing back with all his power, Sengoku smashes directly into the ice with a tremendous blow. First hit, however, did not go so well. The ice reflects his blow. He steels himself up and takes another huge whack at the ice. Cracks spread across the frozen surface before a huge opening finally breaks through, creating a proper fishing hole the old man can actually use. The fisherman is absolutely delighted. After struggling with the ice on his own, he can hardly believe Sengoku managed to break through it so easily. He happily thanks him and prepares his fishing gear beside the new opening. With the problem solved, Sengoku leaves the old man to his fish and heads back towards the old couple's house across the frozen snow-covered landscape.
After getting back to the cabin, Sengoku decides he isn't ready to relax yet. He returns to check on the old fisherman out on the ice. This time, he notices a few fish lying behind the man, suggesting that the fishing hole is finally paying off. Sengoku asks how things are going. The fisherman says he's doing alright, but he is shivering with the cold. Sengoku then asks about the catch, expecting the old man to be pleased after finally getting through the ice. Instead, the fisherman seems disappointed. Apparently none of the fish he's caught so far are especially good, and he grumbles a little bit about his bad luck. There isn't much more to say at this point, so he leaves the fisherman to his work once again and continues exploring the snowy wilderness. Sengoku continues pushing further north across the frozen wilderness, trudging through snow and endless sheets of ice with no real sign of civilization anywhere around it. Eventually, Sengoku finally reaches the base of an enormous frozen mountain rising high into the sky. Its icy cliffs completely block the path forward, making it impossible to continue north any further. With no other option, Sengoku turns and begins heading west along the edge of the mountain. Before long, he stumbles across a strange sight out in the middle of the snow. A small fox is sitting beside the snowman. The scene immediately feels odd. The fox clearly couldn't have built the snowman itself, yet it seems strangely fascinated by it, almost as though it's standing guard over and trying to understand it. As Sengoku slowly approaches, the fox suddenly notices him and immediately darts away into the snow before he can get any closer. Not wanting to lose his bearings out in the frozen wilderness, Sengoku decides against chasing it. Instead, he carefully backtracks to the giant mountain and begins exploring in the opposite direction, heading east this time. And there, carved into the icy cliffs, he discovers something new. A massive dark cave entrance. Deep enough Sengoku can't even begin to see what might be waiting inside.
Sengoku cautiously steps into the cave, hoping it might finally lead somewhere beyond the frozen mountains. But almost immediately, the darkness swallows him completely. The cave is pitch black inside, so dark that Sengoku can barely even tell where the walls are around him. Still, with nowhere else to go, he carefully presses forward deeper into the tunnel. Step by step, he continues through the darkness. Then a little further, and further still. The only sounds are his footsteps echoing through the cave and the occasional drip of water somewhere in the darkness. After what feels like a very long time, Sengoku finally notices something ahead of him, light. A faint glow appears at the far end of the tunnel. Relieved at the possibility of finally reaching the other side, Sengoku eagerly rushes toward it, hurrying through the cave as fast as he can. At last, he bursts out of the tunnel entrance and back into the snow, only to suddenly stop in confusion, because somehow, he's standing right back at the exact same cave entrance he had entered in the first place. Still unsure what exactly just happened inside the cave, Sengoku decides that cave exploration can wait for later. For now, he heads back through the snow towards the base of the icy mountain. As he approaches, he notices movement up along the slope. The fox from earlier is back. Perched safely above him on the snowy incline, the little animal quietly gazes down at Sengoku from out of reach. It doesn't seem frightened this time, but it also doesn't seem particularly interested in getting any closer. After watching it for a moment, Sengoku turns away and heads back towards the snowman he found earlier, hoping maybe there's something more to learn there. But this time, standing beside the snowman is a severe-looking woman bundled against the cold. Sengoku asks her what she's doing out here all alone. Without much warmth in her voice, she sharply replies that she's waiting for someone and immediately asks whether that's supposed to be a problem. Trying not to be discouraged, Sengoku attempts to continue the conversation and asks if she knows anything about the area. But the woman remains cold and unfriendly, insisting that she doesn't know anything useful. Before long, Sengoku realizes he's not going to get much information out of her and finally gives up trying to talk. So he leaves the snowman behind once again and returns towards the icy mountain, where the fox still waits quietly up on the snowy slope, watching from above. At this point, Sengoku is starting to feel a little lost about how any of these strange encounters are supposed to help him continue on his journey. The cave led nowhere, the woman by the snowman refused to talk, and the fox continues to watch from a distance without coming any closer. Not knowing what else to do, Sengoku makes his way back south across the ice until once again he runs into the old fisherman. This time, though, the man seems to be in a better mood. Sengoku asks how the fishing is going now, and the old man happily explains that he's finally started catching some decent fish. Clearly grateful for the help Sengoku gave him earlier, the fisherman offers one of the fish to him as thanks. Sengoku gladly accepts. But then, as he looks down at the fish in his hands, he suddenly remembers someone he met earlier out in the snow. Someone who might actually appreciate a gift like this. Carrying the fish with him, Sengoku heads back north across the frozen wilderness until he once again reaches the great icy mountain. Sure enough, the fox is still there, quietly watching him high up on the snowy slope. Thinking he might finally earn its trust, Sengoku holds the fish up and offers it to the little animal. But the fox refuses to come down. It stays exactly where it is, cautiously staring at him from a safe distance, clearly far too worried to approach. Sengoku tries waiting, then calling to it, but nothing works. Before long, he starts getting irritated and finally gives up on the whole idea. With the fish still in hand, he walks back over to the cave entrance to see whether anything there has changed. But no luck, the massive opening remains just as dark and impenetrable as ever, a huge black void disappearing into the mountain. Frustrated, Sengoku turns back once more to the slope where the fox had been sitting, only now it's gone. Sengoku pauses and scans the snowy mountainside, wondering where the little creature disappeared to. Then, as he slowly makes his way back towards the cave, he suddenly stops in place. The fox is there, silently sitting beside the cave entrance, almost as though it had been waiting for him to return. This time, instead of trying to approach the fox directly, Sengoku kneels down and gently encourages it to come closer. He places the fish in the snow in front of him and slowly backs away, hoping the little creature will finally trust him enough to approach. For a moment, the fox hesitates, then cautiously it comes towards Sengoku and starts eating the fish. After realizing Sengoku isn't going to chase it, the fox relaxes and eagerly digs into the meal, clearly enjoying it after who knows how long wandering around the frozen mountains. Watching it eat, Sengoku slowly reaches out and gives the fox a light pat on the head, trying to show it that he means no harm. The fox lets out a quick little yelp in response, and suddenly bolts straight into the cave. Caught off guard by the sudden movement, Sengoku stares for a moment before immediately running after it into the darkness. Inside the cave, it's just as pitch black as before. Sengoku calls out to the darkness, only to hear his own voice echoing back through the tunnel. Then, another sound answers him, the distant yip from the fox, and behind it, the echo bouncing through the cave. Using the sound as a guide, Sengoku carefully follows the direction of the fox's cry came from, moving deeper and deeper into the darkness. Before long, he notices light up ahead once more. But this time, something feels different. The glow is brighter and warmer. Then suddenly Sengoku bursts out of the cave, back into the open air. Only now he's no longer at the frozen entrance below. Instead, he finds himself high atop the mountain itself, and sitting calmly at the table waiting for him is Cloudman. Cloudman immediately points accusingly at him and demands to know whether he's been bullying Borokov, revealing at last the fox's name is Borokov and that the animal is apparently Cloudman's pet. Sengoku is completely off guard by the accusation. Bullying him? If anything, he was trying to be friendly. He even fed the fox. As the argument continues, Sengoku notices something strange hovering above the Cloudman. A suspiciously fluffy little cloud floating nearby that seems to be oddly attached to him. But before Sengoku can ask about it, Cloudman simply tells him to leave. At that point, Sengoku finally loses patience. Fed up with being brushed aside, he declares that it's time for a rematch and immediately charges forward into another attack. Cloudman casually blocks and dodges the assault while offering Sengoku a few sarcastic compliments about how energetic he seems this time around. But he's clearly not very impressed. In fact, he spends most of the fight mocking Sengoku more than actually fighting him. Then disaster strikes. In the middle of his attack, Sengoku suddenly loses his footing on the icy mountain surface and slips completely off balance. Cloudman looks genuinely irritated by the clumsy mistake. With a sigh of annoyance, he delivers another massive kick straight into Sengoku, launching him bodily out of the flight and right off the side of the mountain. Sengoku tumbles helplessly down the snowy slope, bouncing and rolling across the ice before finally crashing hard at the bottom with a brutal thud. Groaning in pain, Sengoku slowly pulls himself back up from the snow, rubbing his very sore backside after yet another humiliating defeat at the hands, or rather feet, of Cloudman. At this point, he has absolutely no idea what he's supposed to do next. Frustrated and defeated, he decides to head back east to check once more the strange woman standing beside the snowman. But when Sengoku arrives, the woman is gone. Only the snowman remains. Annoyed after everything he's been through, Sengoku finally snaps and attacks the snowman directly. But to his surprise, the snowman doesn't even seem damaged. It completely resists the attack, remaining standing exactly where it was before, almost mockingly untouched. Now Sengoku is feeling truly defeated. Cloudman beat him again, the cave still makes no sense, nobody gives him straight answers, and now apparently even snowmen are too powerful for him to fight. With nothing else to do, he turns around and starts the long walk back towards the old couple's cabin. But as Sengoku trudges through the snow, something strange begins to happen behind him.
Without Sengoku noticing, the snowman has started following him. As he passes the icy mountain, the snowman quietly appears behind him again. Then later out on the ice floe, again near the fishing hole. The fisherman seems to have gone home for the day, but somehow the snowman continues trailing silently after Sengoku no matter where he goes. Step by step, always behind him. Eventually, Sengoku reaches the cabin once more, and there, standing nearby, is the snowman, still following him. Sengoku heads inside the cabin to warm up and escape the blizzard situation, but moments later, the snowman follows him inside the cabin too. The old couple is relieved to see Sengoku safely return to the cabin after wandering the frozen wilderness once again. As he steps inside, they immediately start fussing over him, commenting on how cold it must have been out there in the snow all day. Sengoku starts to reply that honestly his backside is still freezing after being kicked off the mountain by Cloudman. But before he can finish, the old man suddenly notices something behind him. A snowman, standing right there inside the cabin doorway. Sengoku turns around in shock just as the packed snow suddenly begins falling away in huge clumps, and underneath it is Gojo. Apparently he'd been buried under the snow the entire time. Finally thawing out properly in the warmth of the cabin, Gojo lets out a relieved sigh while brushing the remaining snow off himself. Sengoku is stunned and genuinely happy to find one of his missing companions alive and safe. Gojo, meanwhile, reacts surprisingly casually to the reunion, greeting Sengoku almost like he'd simply gone off to do separate errands for a while. Sengoku quickly asked him how in the world he ended up here. According to Gojo, during the battle, someone threw something at him so hard that it sent him flying all the way to Siberia. Hearing that, Sengoku goes quiet for a moment before asking the question really weighing on him. What about the others? Unfortunately, Gojo doesn't know anything. He explains that he was knocked unconscious and didn't wake up until he was already stranded here, completely buried in snow. The old woman immediately starts worrying over him too, insisting that he must still be freezing cold and should properly come inside to warm himself by the fire. Remembering his manners, Gojo finally introduces himself to the couple and thanks them for taking care of Sengoku. The old man warmly tells him not to worry about anything and says they're both welcome to stay, rest, and relax as long as they need. As everyone settles down inside the cabin, the old woman turns back towards Sengoku and asks whether he managed to find Cloudman after all. Sengoku looks embarrassed and irritated, clearly remembering the second humiliating beating he just received on the mountain, but he doesn't answer. Seeing his reaction, the old woman gently comments that she's heard Cloudman's been in a very bad mood lately and warns Sengoku to be careful around him. That immediately catches Gojo's attention. Trying to understand what's been happening while he was buried in the snow, he asks what kind of person Cloudman actually is. The old woman explains that she doesn't know him well, but not long ago, he apparently had a reputation for being a very kind and pleasant person. According to rumors she heard, though, his sour mood is something more recent, and perhaps the result of a broken heart. That answer causes Gojo to suddenly grow thoughtful and quiet for a moment. Before the conversation can continue much further, the old man reminds both Sengoku and Gojo to be careful if they decide to head back out in the mountains, and naturally the old woman follows with one final request: make sure you're both back by dinner. Gojo and Sengoku set out to the ice once again, making their way back to the mountain. They find their way back to the fishing hole, and notice that the fisherman left a pile of trash. Gojo's curious, so he takes a look at it. He picks up something from inside the pile, and he finds it's a bracelet. Sengoku's not sure what a bracelet is, so Gojo explains that it's a ring you put on your arm. Sengoku does not like rings, remembering the ring on his head that controls him, so Gojo decides to take the bracelet and hold on to it for now. They keep on heading north, back to the mountain. And here they are, facing the cliff. Back at the cave entrance, Borkov is back. And once again, he dives inside the cave. Sengoku, a little more confident now, knowing how to get through this cave, has moved on inside. Gojo actually can smell the fox and follow him by scent. And at long last, they're back on the mountaintop with Cloudman and Borkov. Cloudman is not as thrilled to see them as you might expect, but Gojo decides to give him the bracelet.
Cloudman clearly is not impressed. It's just a piece of junk. Why are you putting this in my face? So Gojo changes his attack a little bit and gives it to Borkov. Borkov likes to play with shiny toys. The fox immediately starts to lick it and chew it. And then suddenly, crunch! He bites right down. Taking a fresh look at the bracelet now, it's actually a bright, shiny object with all the grime removed. And it has writing on it. Katsuya with overflowing love from Cloudman. So Cloudman has clearly seen this bracelet before because he gave it to somebody named Katsuya. Sengoku is not familiar, so he asked, "What is a Katyusha?" Cloudman's attention has finally been acquired. Now that he actually knows what this bracelet is, it's a treasure that he really actually wants to know. This was a gift he gave to his true love, Katyusha. So Gojo has figured that part out. Cloudman really understood them as a beautiful couple that was envied. But 2 years ago, when the Ox King came, he took Katyusha away. Lured by his sweet words, what a monster. Cloudman is now super grateful and really appreciates that this has been restored to him. He will tell me anything we want to know now. Gojo jumps in and asks about the flying Nimbus. And Sengoku also wants to talk about the Hammer of Light. So Cloudman is going to give them the Nimbus and the Hammer of Light. All is well, and transportation away from Siberia has been secured. Cloudman just reminds everybody that the Hammer of Light is not a weapon for use. One must be careful on how we use it. The old couple is really proud that we got what we were looking for, but are sad that we're going to be leaving already. Gojo promises to return, though. And the old man is thrilled and says they'll be waiting. Sengoku says, "See you later." Gojo says, "Bye." And up on the flying Nimbus they go. Whoa! We're flying through the sky! How amazing! It is amazing! The old man is down below, pointing to the sky. Look at them go! It's just like a fairy tale. Thank you, cat. What? No, nothing. Let's hurry. Flying Nimbus, off to Hawaii. And now we wait as we process the switch to the next chapter. Chapter 7, Hawaii. The narrator briefly takes over and explains that Sengoku and Gojo have been flying for a very long time across the sky. But at last, after their long journey over the ocean, the two finally arrive in Hawaii, the place where rumors suggested Sanzo might be found. And with that, the narrator cheerfully signs off the scene with a friendly aloha. As the two approach land, Sengoku is immediately dazzled by the bright tropical sunlight after spending so long surrounded by snow and ice. Even so, he's happy they finally managed to make it. Gojo, meanwhile, is a very different reaction. After Siberia, Hawaii just feels unbearably hot. Looking around at the beaches and the tropical scenery, he wonders aloud if this really seems like the kind of place Sanzo would end up. But Sengoku doesn't want to waste any time standing around talking, so he just wants to find everyone as quickly as possible and continue the journey. Immediately, he starts loudly calling out for Hakai, Naril, and even the old man. While Sengoku searches, Gojo suddenly notices something unusual nearby. Tracks, cow tracks. Sengoku wants to get a closer look. Now, back on solid ground, Sengoku and Gojo soon come across a crowd of people gathered around a giant billboard featuring an attractive celebrity woman. Neither of them is entirely sure what they're looking at. The whole scene feels strange and chaotic. Trying to get some information, Gojo asks one of the boys standing in the crowd whether he knows anything about a monk named Sanzo. But the boy just is not interested right now. He says there's no time for this. He's far too distracted by his own problems to care about missing monks or travelers from China. Sensing something unusual, Gojo decides to quietly use his mind-reading abilities to figure out what's really going on. Almost immediately, he realizes the boy is panicking because he lost something important, something he apparently needs before an upcoming parade begins. Without it, he seems convinced he's going to be in serious trouble. Unfortunately, beyond that, neither Sengoku nor Gojo is able to get much useful information out of the situation. So with no better leads for the moment, the two decide to leave the crowd behind and continue exploring Hawaii in search of Sanzo and the others. Continuing further along the beach, Sengoku and Gojo soon come across a small beef bowl stand set up near the shoreline. The owner enthusiastically calls out to passing tourists, loudly advertising his delicious food and trying to lure customers over. Hoping for another lead, Gojo asks the owner whether he's happened to see a cute girl named Naril anywhere in the area. The man thinks for a moment, but eventually shakes his head. He doesn't remember seeing anyone like that. Still suspicious there might be more going on, Gojo quietly uses his mind-reading ability once again to peek beneath the surface. This time he picks on some completely different concern. The owner is internally panicking about someone who apparently failed to wear sunglasses, and somehow that resulted in her getting kidnapped. It's certainly alarming information, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to have much to do with Naril, Sanzo, or the rest of the missing group. With no useful leads to follow there, Sengoku and Gojo decide to head back the other direction along the beach, and before long, they spot someone who appears to be a police officer. As Sengoku and Gojo approach the police officer, they quickly realize the situation is even stranger than it had first appeared. The officer seems to be carrying around a mole thief on a leash, and the mole will not stop complaining. He keeps begging for something to eat, whining continuously while the exhausted officer tries his best to ignore it. At this point, the policeman doesn't even seem to be angry anymore, he just desperately wants the mole to be quiet. Gojo decides this might be a good opportunity to get involved and asks for some water. Surprisingly, the officer seems perfectly willing to help. First, though, Gojo needs to fill out a little paperwork. Then a little more paperwork. And then even more paperwork. The officer continues droning on about the required information, forms, procedures, and documentation, while Gojo slowly just loses the will to live right on the beach. Eventually, completely overwhelmed by the endless bureaucratic process, Gojo simply collapses dramatically onto the ground. That finally gets the officer's attention. Alarmed, he rushes over to see what's going on. Barely able to respond, Gojo weakly explains that his throat is dry. The officer stares at him for a moment before bluntly telling him to pull himself together. Gojo is escorted into the waiting area, and Sengoku is now on his own. Sengoku decides to head back down the beach. He encounters the boy from the crowd, but he's not ready to talk to him again yet, so he heads back to see how Gojo's doing, and finds the police officer is now taking a nap. He's still holding on to the mole, but Gojo's just sitting there, not really doing anything. Sengoku takes an opportunity now to talk to the mole, and asks him if he knows about a monk named Sanzo. The mole says that maybe he knows him, but he's hungry. Sengoku just says, tell him. So the implication here is we're being shaken down for a bit of food. does seem like there was somebody who is providing food not too far away, so Sengoku just makes his way back to the beef bowl stand. In typical style, Sengoku just demands a beef bowl. The owner apparently doesn't want to talk to people without money. Strange for a businessman, I suppose. Sengoku is not happy. He offers some stamina noodles maybe instead of a beef bowl. But then he reconsiders. He's noticed that Sengoku's actually a pretty tough-looking guy, and maybe he can help. Apparently he has a daughter named Mi that's been kidnapped, very similar to what Gojo had learned, and he would probably like a bit of help bringing her back. If I agree to help his daughter, he'll give me all the beef bowls I want. Unfortunately for me, it seems like he's willing to pay in advance. So, let's do it. Rescuing daughters is my thing. What toppings would you like? Maybe a little pickled ginger. And there we go. I got a beef bowl just like that. Now I can head back to the mole. And hopefully see what I can do from there. Maybe he will actually know something about Sanzo that I can use. Here you go, Mr. Mole. Ravenous. Okay. You got the bowl. You're eating. Tell me. Old man Sanzo. Where is he? After a very long pause. Sumimasen, sorry. Actually, I don't even know. I was just so hungry. I had to do something. Sengoku does not take that lying down. He attacks. The mole was just sort of hungry, and you know, you can do what you gotta do. You brat! Alright, the mole doesn't want to be attacked anymore. Here, take these sunglasses. What am I supposed to do with these? Well, they're very inconvenient. Something good might happen if I have these. Well, you could avoid making eye contact with the Resetsu woman. That's something. Resetsujo, I have later learned, is best translated as Princess Iron Fan, but it took me a while, so you'll just have to live with Resetsujo for a while. You know, if you don't say she's beautiful when she sees you, it'll be worse. Sengoku doesn't like the sound of that, so he takes the sunglasses. Now Sengoku wants to know if Gojo's good. Gojo's feeling much better now. Policeman seems to still be just having his nap. So the boy has disappeared, even though he's been hanging out there for this whole time. Apparently the Beeple guy's gone too. Wow. Where is everybody? Can't go any further to the west. Let's see, what can I do here? The mole and the policeman are both gone. We really are in a situation where everybody's gone. Back to the billboard. Still, the crowd is gone too. What? Nothing in that direction. I'm a little lost. Oh, I have a new option here. I guess now that I've finished exploring everything everywhere and found everybody gone, I can listen. Ooh, a rustling sound from up above. Let's beat up this palm tree and see what happens. Oh! And it's the boy again. Down he comes. Who's hiding in the tree. Sengoku's pretty surprised. And the boy is not happy. Gojo wants to know, how did he end up there? The boy went to all that trouble of hiding, since he doesn't have what he lost that he needs for the parade. And the parade will start. I'm not ready. His sunglasses, that's what he's been looking for this whole time. Now he's all good. Can just relax. Now that he's calmed down, he remembers I was looking for the monk. Gojo's surprised. He actually knows about that? He doesn't know, but he thinks he saw him at the beach. I guess that's a little bit of progress. So let's go check it out. Yes, indeed. Bit of a new scene here. Yet another little stand. And there's a girl. Nero! Selling shaved ice. Nice job. Nero, it's me, Sengoku! Hey, you're getting in the way of my business! Go away! Now that doesn't sound like Nero. Sengoku's all like, what? Gojo's trying to take a little bit of a look. She's still very stylish. Need to look closer. For some reason her waist seems a little squeaky. Her bust is a little shiver shiver. Doesn't seem quite right. Gojo's trying to figure out what's going on. Nero's staring back. So much being said without saying anything. So now Sengoku's suspicious. Meryl is gone, silent. She's no longer willing to talk. Things are drooping now. That doesn't seem right at all. A cute, fit girl like Meryl shouldn't have any of that. Stop staring at me! Now Gojo's figured out you aren't actually Meryl. Oh, you spotted me, huh? Poof! And Meryl turns into Hawkeye. He was using his shape-shifting skills. Hawkeye wants to know if we're surprised. Gojo wants to know why he was actually impersonating Meryl. And of course, Hawkeye, it's easier to make money as a cute girl than it is as a fat pig. Where is the real Meryl? Hawkeye doesn't know. Sengoku is not happy about this. He's ready to just go in and beat him up. Straight for the knee. Hawkeye still has nothing useful to say. Terrible style. Hawkeye is just not equipped to do as well. Having a little trouble figuring out what the right path here is. I think Sengoku is trying to confirm that it is actually Hawkeye. Hawkeye still doesn't want to say anything though. Alright, we're gonna attack Hawkeye directly. Whack! Oh, please stop being violent! Alright, let's try talking a little bit now. How'd you get here, Hawkeye? How can you even ask me that? It's your fault. I got blown all the way over here. Better deal than Siberia, I would think, but whatever. You messed up my whole life. I had this nice, thriving restaurant, and you ruined it all. Now Sengoku's a little turn to be silent. Even Sanzo was dragged here as a result. And there's Sanzo, looking a little wacky. Oh man! Sanzo! Old man, there you are. Oh, a talking monkey. Wow, we've seen a talking monkey. Apparently Sanzo's had something to drink or something's up. Apparently he's been like this ever since the sinking. So apparently he's in a bit of a stupor more than anything else. Again, not sure what to say to that. Sengoku remains silent. Oh, if you hadn't been so selfish, none of this would have happened. It's all your fault. So, Hawkeye continues to be a little salty. Everyone's worse off now. But that was because I don't want to hear your excuses. Oh dear, the parade's about to start. So they're just gonna go and become servants, huh? Wait! Let's chase after him. Another new place. This looks like the parade route. We've got the large crowd already. And Princess Ironfan, or the Demon Woman, or Resetsujo. How beautiful. But she's driving by Sanzo and Hakai. She's loving all the admiration. Oop. The car comes and slows to a stop in front of Hakai. With gaze locked, she asks, "Am I beautiful?" As we knew she would. And to Hakai, "You are extremely beautiful. Next to you, Cleopatra looks like a wrinkled old hag." He really wants to be a favored servant. And like that, Hakai and Sanzo have been whisked away into a life of servitude. Wait up! We shouldn't go, it's dangerous. Well, we can easily defeat somebody like that. She doesn't look that tough. And if you go on a rampage again, everyone will just end up getting blown away. He reminds Sengoku. And Sengoku is a little bit sad about that. And we're back to the narrator. We've got the two of them on the beach. They finally found their friends, but it just didn't work out. Sengoku couldn't get Hakai and his words out of his mind. It's all your fault. Everyone's suffering. Oh, Sanzo. Will he ever recover? And Sengoku doesn't know what to say again. Oh, all of a sudden, a strange old man emerges from the sand. How strange. One looks like Sanzo a bit. Who are you? Sandman, Cloudman's younger brother. Some more agents of heaven here to keep an eye on me, I guess. Do I want to get Sanzo back to his original state? Seems like a good idea. Honest feelings will bring Sanzo back to normal. And that was it. He disappears back in the sand. I suppose that was cryptic. Sengoku's thinking. But while they sit there and converse in their thoughts, the sunset is beautiful. The water is moving. The warm sands are comfortable. An honest feeling. What could that possibly mean? Where is that old man anyway? They got whisked away so fast we didn't get to see where they were actually going. What an idiot. How could he possibly just agree? Sunset does not reply. Again, where is the old man? This time, the sunset does say. He's on the 30th floor of the Ox King's Hotel. Well, I'm glad the sunset was able to tell us where to go. Apparently this is the place. A nice new setting for us. Inside the hotel, here we are in the hallway, guest rooms all around. Which one is the right one? Door is locked. It seems like there's a young lady in that room. Tries talking. He gets a reply from behind the door. Who are you? I'm Sengoku. Oh, she was abducted and is being held captive. So maybe this is me that I was supposed to save for the beef noodle guy. Please, please get me out of here. I don't want to be a servant. Sengoku knows that he needs to. I don't have the key though. Hidden somewhere in one of these rooms. Okay, we'll look. Gotta find it before Princess Ironfan comes and finds us. Alright, let's try the right side this time. Also locked. That looks like somebody's feet. Sengoku calls out again. Hey! Oh, weird that there's a door talking. Sounds like Sanzu is still unrecovered. Old man, just hold on, I'll be there. Let's try the left side. Oop, this one is not locked. Heya no naka, inside the room. We're gonna look around. Hi. What are you doing? Old man Sanzo. Princess Ironfan, there's a thief. Come, quick. Ah, Hakai. So reliable. Man, there's so many places to search in this room. The ceiling. Ooh. I got the key! Yay, that was easy. Alright, back to the Roka hallway. Now that I have that in hand. Princess Ironfan is coming. Gotta hurry. She's still coming. Feels like Jaws. Alright, let's unlock the door. Need to make good on that rescue. Whoa! Yes, the rope. Let's do it. Untie her, untie her. What happened? That look on your face, you seem so unhappy. Oh, Princess Ironfan did this to me. She says it's what the Ox King likes. which means that's not what we like. Yuki. I'll never be able to get married now. Why? I was kidnapped by this horrible man. And away she goes, leaving a nice coiled bit of rope for me. So I will take that. Alright, I think I'm done here now. Only one more room left to check. And Princess Ironfan still on her way. Bit of a different layout, and it seems that the window's open here. As a breeze blows the curtains around. We've tied the rope outside the window. Looks like I'm gonna do a little bit of a outside walk. Ooh, uncomfortable. I'm no longer tied to the rope. I'm just hanging from the ledge. Great success, but not necessarily a great thing. A nice headbutt to the window glass, though, seems to do the trick. Sanzo, I'm here. We're still having a talking monkey reaction. Sanzo is still not himself. Guess we need to look around a little bit. Sengoku's starting to get the feels. Nakani mo beta Mayo dakara. The Sandman comes in singing yet another classic 60s Japanese song about tropical beaches. He's here to remind Sengoku that his true feelings are what Sanzo needs to feel better. So what true feeling are we needing here? Let's try Gomen. I'm sorry. Sanzo seems to be feeling a little better, just like that. Just as Sandman predicted. Well said. And as a reward, I get my magic staff. So, as we all know, the Monkey King has the magic extending staff. So up until this point, I guess it's been just a plain old staff. But now, with my flying nimbus and my magic extending staff, we're getting pretty well equipped. But now we have to run. Same old lecherous Sanzo. Can't go to the hallway. Princess Ironfan's there, so back out the window we go. course, the rope isn't within arm's reach anymore. But maybe this was good timing to get that particular enchantment. Yeah, nothing special. Hey, what happened to Kukaiji? Now that he's back to his senses, he thought we were still on the cruise ship. Let's get out of here before she shows up. Sanzo's like, what? Oh, oop. Hallway definitely doesn't work. Here we go. Princess Ironfan has found me. And she is wondering, who am I in her hotel? Well, of course, I'm Sengoku. Am I beautiful? Are you going to be my slave? Sengoku is not going to play. You're a monster! Princess Ironfan does not take that well. And she pulls out the fan and goes into a rage. I will burn this entire place to a charred ruin! How dare you insult me like this? And then she raises the fan and gives it a wave. The entire room goes up like a Christmas tree. Getting smoky in here. What can we do? The freshly enchanted staff? Let's figure that out. What can we do? Help! And then the staff extends all the way out the window. Providing a slim chance of an escape. Out the window we go. Follow me, Sanzo! Praise be to Buddha! Praise be to Buddha! And they make their way along the staff that I guess is somehow anchored somewhere. And here they are, hanging out the window high above the city. Flying Nimbus! Come and help us! And then the cloud whisks them away. Staff in hand. Stop dawdling! Princess Ironfan will catch us. And away they go again. The nerve calling me a monster! How dare he! How dare he! And Hakai gets the fun job of trying to calm her down. He's Sengoku. He also bullied the young master Kukaiji. He's terrible. Fox King gets involved. Resetsujo, go after him. He must not escape. Get that awful light hammer. My only weakness. So with that, I think this is a good place to end video 3. We'll conclude in video 4. Remember to like and subscribe, though, if you're enjoying this, and look forward to translating with you down the road. This has been a fun, yet time-consuming game to do. Good night.